This is fruit basket number.
I don't know. Maybe we're in the double digits by now.
I don't think so. This is either 8 or 9.
No. We did 9 with Nanette, right? Ninette.
No. Let me check. I'm gonna check.
No, because I think we've entered double digits. We've been doing this. When did we start? Like 8 months ago? Wow, it took us 8 months to get to either 9 or 10.
This is number 9.
What?
Yeah, because we calmly pontificated about Nanette.
Oh, and that was oh no.
So you might hear some stuff in the background. It's hot in LA, so I have my air conditioning running.
When is it gonna get cool? I feel like we've gotten.
I think October is gonna be fucking hot.
Oh
Yeah.
I have no
Indian
desire
summer, as they
for
say.
that. Yeah, it sucks right now. We had like one night that was somewhat cool, and I had to actually wear a jacket, and I loved it. And now it's just back to being hot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. It seems like it's been long, but we've only had 2 days that were memorably bad.
Bad?
Yeah.
Really?
Like one, it was over 100 a few times.
I guess the only reason I think it's incredibly hot every day is because I spend so much time in my car and my AC just sucks. So I sweat my entire drive over here. I sweat my entire drive back. It's and all the way to work. It's miserable in my car. So it feels like 120 every day.
Yeah. So now we have the air conditioning running because we want to also drink very hot coffee.
I don't know if I can like. You're brave
little
for giving
tiny
that a
baby
sip.
bird sips.
We just brewed this.
But yeah, so the last podcast we did was about Nanette by Hannah Gadsby. And we did I say Gatsby?
Gadsby.
And then we got one negative comment, which was, "This video makes me sad," or is sad.
I don't
think
know.
She just said it's sad.
It was weird because like if nobody's gonna offer any kind of. Did we get any good comments that were like...
Yeah, no.
Okay,
and
good.
Immediately after that one, someone said something nice and said that we spoke very truthfully.
I love that.
Yeah, which, I mean, again, if you hate it, like that was what was interesting about the Gay Cake podcast we did, is we got tons of feedback and tons of like negative stuff, but it was very well thought out.
Exactly.
Like I wish I knew your name, but the person who listens to them, yeah, yours. I don't remember yours. I just had a stroke.
I'm Sean.
Mm-hmm. But he said he's like, I think he's going to, or maybe I creeped on his YouTube and he's like a law student at Yale or something, which that's the kind of commenter I want to have.
Yeah.
Only Yale grad students is
Interesting.
what I care about.
Yeah, that one comment that we got in Nanette was
sad.
It was like, this video makes me sad.
This video is sad.
This video is so sad.
It's so sad.
And just give us a reason why and we'll have the conversation.
I suspect it's because we're not woke enough to Hannah Gadsby's style.
We're so oblivious to
her how she's just a comedy auteur.
Yeah.
How she brought a smile to my face.
Yeah, her special
Certainly.
was hilarious.
It was hilarious. We did watch it, and
oh yeah, we did. We didn't really comment on that. We watched it.
I can't think of any other film I have watched in which I've wondered, other than Lincoln. Lincoln's the only other thing where this has ever happened, where I have checked multiple times to see if it's over.
You really did. You paused it in the middle a couple times, and you were like, you had a whole rant every time you paused it. And you know, I mean, I expected it, but it was at least 3 times.
There's really no point of revisiting it, because I think what was so creepy is that when we were doing the last podcast, I listened back to it after we actually had watched it, and
weren't we spot on
so many things? And the weirdest part about it was that. I randomly went in that tirade in the beginning about art and how I don't really care about art, and then her whole thing is about how like Picasso's art a fuckboy or something, and then and where she's like an art major, so like a big focal point is how much of, in her words, that Picasso suffered from the mental illness of misogyny.
I'm so glad we were right about the special before we even watched it.
Yeah.
Gosh, because it is not very good.
But this theme actually is going. It's a through line of the 2 things that I want to talk about.
Well, I know what we're going to talk about first, right? From this.
Well, we'll talk about that actually last.
Okay.
But it's this idea of how much of a shameful person does somebody need to be? Like, what's the level of shameful act that they have to commit? And then, in order for you to be interested in seeing them in the public eye,
redemption,
sort of, but I don't know why this is taking me or so difficult for me to explain, but or get it out the way that I want to, but for instance, like Mark Wahlberg, people don't really know this, but he had a bunch of violent stuff on his record where he punched a bunch of black kids and while screaming the N-word. He punched a Vietnamese man so hard in the eye while calling him an ethnic slur that he made him blind in that eye. And we all don't know about that, and we've all forgiven Mark Wahlberg, even though But
it's really great, that we forget he's a piece of shit.
A total piece of shit. Just total awful waste of human skin and flesh. But the one that I was thinking about was Kevin Spacey, because they had that movie that just came out recently called Billionaire Boys Club or something.
Yeah, about the boy who's
it made no
rich.
money, but it sucks for the whole people that were involved in the cast because his dumb face was on it. But it got me to thinking is like, I can't even watch Kevin Spacey movies that I liked. And it's not even really because of what he did. To me, when I learned that somebody is an asshole and is like rude to underlings, that is that's more repellent to me than even what he did necessarily. I mean, I think it's all tied in. Like, I think that somebody who's rude to underlings or servers probably has some sort of entitlement about sex. I think
I think everybody should work a customer service job. Like, for like 6 months of their life at least. They should be required.
I think so too. But so the first one, so this is kind of an interesting one. So you and I had talked about it when it briefly happened. So John McCain kicked the bucket.
Yeah, well, cancer kicked his bucket.
Well, it certainly did, which sucks. I mean, obviously, you want someone like that to go the way of, Scalia and have a heart attack in the middle of the night and just die, but he had to suffer with brain cancer for, feels like over a decade and all kinds of other shit. But I'm old enough to remember 2008 was the first election I could vote in. You were very young at that time, but
I was 11.
Yeah. But it was such an obvious choice then, in the sense of it's either the same old thing or
with John McCain
or Obama. And the biggest thing to me was that there was not someone who was running for public office of the presidency had not been more warmongering than John McCain, which is ironic, right?
It's interesting because he was a prisoner of war.
Yeah,
that it is really interesting, and I don't remember it personally, so I want to bring up I can't really comment. But
I want to bring up this clip. This is when he was on the campaign trail.
Oh boy!
It's well documented that we have, for quite a long time now, known where the real problem is in the Middle East, and in fact, the president adequately described it as the axis of evil. I guess my question is, how many times do we have to prove that these people are blowing up people now? Never mind if they get a nuclear weapon. When do we send them an airmail message to Tehran?
Oh boy!
So here comes doddering old John McCain.
That old Beach Boys song, Bomberan. Bom, 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 bom.
So that's John McCain singing "Bomb, Bomb, 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 Iran," which he would. I remember I posted that thing on my Instagram, which nobody wanted to fucking touch.
No, they didn't. How many people reached out?
Three.
Okay. You were asking if war was ever justified in your Instagram story.
And I think that a lot of the problem was that people thought that the question was more loaded than it actually was, but it was in the context of him dying. And I was thinking about this idea, and to me, it was math. It's if the number of innocents being killed by some dictatorship or leader or country is higher than the amount of collateral damage that you'll do by invading them, then it's justified. Meaning, World War II, I mean, it should have intervened just based on innocent death alone. But it's why I've been so skeptical about stuff in Syria or with Iran is it's like, okay, so we're going to kill a ton of innocent people with drones in the process. We're going to have many of our soldiers get killed in the process and just generally make the region worse every time we go in and want to topple regimes that are secular.
We have a history of doing that.
It's our favorite thing to do is topple secular regimes and have them be replaced by the rebel group that they're fighting, which ends up being a crazy bunch of religious extremists.
Yeah, we're really good at doing that.
We are.
Some examples, maybe Nicaragua, Egypt.
Yep.
We've done a lot.
Yeah.
To screw up other nations that aren't ours.
Yeah, except for Saudi Arabia,
which is interesting.
Which we have a very special, neat relationship with, even though 14 out of the hijackers came from there in 9/11.
That's interesting. We're getting spicy. It was
but it's just one of those things
spicy.
where what's so funny to me is this it's a term that was coined on the right, but it's called Trump derangement syndrome, and it is that thing you kind of see of where anything involving Trump is just makes people lose their mind. Like rational people we've known in entertainment or whatever, Kathy Griffin has full Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, she has just fully lost her mind.
What is this? How does this relate to us interfering with
it's
other
about
countries?
It's about John McCain. So
Okay.
the fact that John McCain would be shitty with Trump was enough now for every Democrat
shitty towards Trump
to love him overnight.
Of course, yeah.
And it's like, dude, this guy stands for everything that you don't. And granted, he became kind of a more, I guess, moderate Republican compared to the super right wing. But this is still the dude who picked Sarah Palin, who is the most extreme fringe person on the planet in terms of God and baby and country and guns and abortion, everything that Democrats shouldn't care about. And this was what he saw as a good decision. It's just amazing to me. It's none of the accountability. Like, I don't really care about who's in office. I just don't want to go to war.
Yeah.
War doesn't ever fix. It just like all the wars that we've started pretty much since even Korea. Like it's all been bad because it's all every war that we've started has been sold to the American public as we need to kill this idea. Which it's not really about that. It's about oil or resources or something else. But we love to sell it as like, oh, we're going after terror, or we're going after whatever else, and it's all a lie. We know it's a lie because of the WMD situation, which John McCain was all for invading Iraq, and based on faulty intelligence which turned out to be nothing there. But I think we knew that, and I think that we wanted to kill Saddam Hussein because he wasn't playing along with us, and we got that done. And now Iraq is just amazing. So,
well, I mean, I just started college recently. A week ago, I started school, and I'm taking 2 online classes. One of them, I mean, the 2 that are online are gen eds. It's an English class, and then I have to take an art class. So I'm taking art history. I'm in the second half. I took art history a year ago, the first half. But in that class, we had or actually in English, we had like a moment where we had to post a photo of something political or a current news story that was inherently political. So I ended up posting that photo of Trump coloring in the American flag. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Where he drew one blue stripe. Anyways, that's not the point. Somebody posted a photo of John McCain from like the White House website as like a memorial of him. And I was like, this photo isn't really political, and the comment you're making on it isn't political either. You're just saying rest in peace, John McCain. But the way he worded it was, this is a man who risked his life for us, who did everything he could to help make America better. And I was like, he wasn't great, and him dying doesn't shield him from public criticism. He was a public figure. He's absolutely subject to public criticism, even in his death. And I think he got a little butthurt about that because he replied to it, and I haven't read it yet. But
well,
he seemed to like admire this guy, and he the way he worded his initial post was he can't be criticized. He's dead now. Let him rest. It's like, we have every right to criticize him.
Well,
for being shitty.
And it's the kind of thing of like, so what? And John McCain will be a historical figure. We can't criticize him after he dies, even though we were equally willing to criticize him while he was living. I mean, during the 2008 campaign, it was really painted as if you didn't vote for Obama, you're a racist.
Yeah.
And which is the first time I'd ever kind of seen that happen, which now that's kind of common parlance, and it just seems to be what we do now, which is call everybody racist who doesn't vote Democrat. But yeah, it was weird to see, because it's like there is nothing that this guy has stood for that has, in terms of really anything that I'm about, has represented it fully, and even more specifically stuff that I'm sure listeners of this podcast about. He wasn't for gay rights, and
yeah, I know.
He wasn't for.
This is one of my points of my discussion.
And
posts.
total warmongering weirdo. I mean, like, I'm giving you one example, but literally you can look it up. He's one of the most pro-war people that exists, and getting us involved in conflicts that all of us could agree were bad and we should not have gotten involved in them. And you can find plenty of pictures of with him. There's one really famous of him posing with a bunch of terrorists. It's weird. So I don't. But it's that kind of thing of all it took for the Democrats was that it's television drama. So they love that Trump and him had a feud, and that he was kind of like showing Trump up, and so the intelligentsia loves him because he's seen as this figurehead of, because that's all it takes. It's like you can be a total warmongering turd, but if you oppose Trump, you're now virtuous and amazing.
It's interesting, yeah.
Which is really ripe for honest conversation in that moat. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, so
I'm really excited to see what my classmate said to me.
I am too.
Because I think this classmate, it was just like this really strange, like, rest in peace, dude. Like, rest in paradise, brother.
Yeah.
Was basically the vibe of his post. It's like, just rest. Don't rest in paradise. Just rest.
It's kind of like
Sleep.
Scalia too when he died on the Supreme Court. It was just like good riddance, kind of. I mean, I know it sounds harsh, but it's like if John McCain hadn't gone through what he went through in Vietnam, would we all? I think that's a big buffer for him as well. Is that we kind of look at what happened to him as being, which I think if I had my ribs broken and had bamboo shoots shoved in my fingernails, I'd be the most anti-war person on the fucking planet.
Or maybe he was vengeful. And wanted to just bomb everything that was in the United States.
Here, keep talking for a second. There's a John McCain quote I want to read for you.
Okay, sure, yeah. Well, I was going to say, I saw a clip of his funeral procession this morning, and they played one of your favorite artists, Frank Sinatra.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, as he was being carried away. And I know you love Frank Sinatra.
Not as much as I love Bruce Springsteen, but there's one song I love, "Summer Wind" by Frank Sinatra, but the rest of it's just that kind of talky thing.
It is, yeah. They played what's that song called? "My Way." My way.
Okay. Did it my way?
Yeah, as they were carrying him away, it was just like, why this song?
I have to find the. Sorry.
Apparently, John McCain wrote down everything he wanted for his funeral, and that was included in that.
Okay. Arizona Senator John McCain refused to apologize yesterday for his use of a racial slur to condemn the North Vietnamese prison guards who tortured and held him captive during the war. This is John McCain's words, not mine. "I hate the gooks," McCain said yesterday in response to a question from reporters aboard his campaign bus. "I will hate them as long as I live."
Wow. I don't know.
And the article was published in 2000. And so he was very much an adult at that point.
Oh, yeah. He was probably
so
like 95
while we're digging up old
year
tweets,
2000.
we can find out how progressive McCain was.
Oh, yeah. He's great. Love him.
And
I think like
what Christian virtue is clearly happening in that, right?
I know that the latest, his latest recorded saying that he was like against gay marriage was like 2016.
Yeah,
which is absurd.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And Hillary Clinton's was just a couple years before that.
Yep, I know. Huh?
But we're with her. Oh boy.
Yeah, she's great.
God, she's been popping up back in.
Is she really? I haven't seen her name in a while. I don't know what she's up to.
I just really, they just keep, shooting some sort of stuff into her corpse to get it to reanimate, and then they just put it back in the.
You think she died? She's dead.
I mean, I don't know.
Hillary Clinton is like
it's such a shame though, because she is so bad for this country and us and everything we stand for. She's just the worst, and she just keeps saying dumb shit, so she can't help it. But okay, speaking of irredeemable people, the question. So Louis C.K. did a surprise set in New York. It's the first one he's done since he's been gone for 9 months. Disappeared after being Me Too'd. I think it was at the Comedy Cellar in New York, which would make sense. It's kind of his home club to like work stuff out. He didn't talk about what happened. He just talked about, I think like he did something about waitresses, and then we have another podcast we both listened to that they talked about it, but I remember reading the articles when it happened. And it's interesting because Reddit is kind of I think a good sampling of just the populace in general. People seemed pretty okay on there about him coming back.
That's interesting.
And compared to what's interesting is this is what I think is like there's such a weird disconnect in the culture is people I think generally are okay with him coming back, but think pieces are not.
Oh God!
What would be an example of a think piece headline that would talk about Louis C.K.?
Louis C.K. submits to his toxic masculinity in assuming he can come back without repercussion.
how white male privilege makes one immune to public shame. The Louis C.K. story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Arrogance as toxic masculinity.
Right.
So,
correct.
Yeah.
So it kind of opened a lot of questions, right? Like I don't. His particular one was so interesting because all the things that people like to laugh about concerning about how he handled it is kind of what makes it compelling in the sense of, okay, so what he did was gross, obviously.
Yeah,
and
gross, creepy.
inappropriate.
Yes.
But he did ask, right? And I think that it's such an absurd request that people didn't believe that it was real, and then therein lies the rub, right? But I do think that nuance is important.
I used to think that saying was therein lies the rump.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not it.
Well.
Anyways, therein lies the rub.
I think in most times I prefer to see the lying rump, but in this one we need the rub. Maybe the rub and the rump.
Yeah, the two of them together.
Yes. And then the other part of it, too, was all of the women that Me Too'd him then went back and said, long before any of this came out, he had called each of them and apologized about the individual incidents, which is where the podcast that you and I both listened to, I think, fucked up, is that, like, there's a lot of talking about how he's not, and also his apology. He was the only one that fully admitted to everything.
Of course.
And so it is that question. It's like, I don't have a problem with him coming back. If there's no recidivism, then I don't know. It's like this court of public opinion on this particular act is, I think that a murderer could do stand up faster after being released than Louis. It just seems like.
Well, we do have murderers who are, in the front lines of, the women's march, and that lady you told me about her.
Yeah,
she's
I
like,
can't remember her name right now, but yeah.
Yeah, I can't either. But she killed a gay man.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have murderers who have already been redeemed, or maybe they just forgot about it. But things like this, I mean, sure, I think Louis C.K. is absolutely deserving of redemption. There are people who are monsters, and there are people who are creeps, and I think Louis C.K. was a little bit creepy, but he's not a Weinstein. He's not a Cosby,
right,
or a Polanski, like they mentioned in the podcast we listened to, Your Mom's House.
Your Mom's House.
He's none of those three. He's not a monster. He did ask, but it was vague. The consent wasn't there. It just, I think he is deserving of redemption, but it's not up to him when that is.
Right, but then who's going to be the one? Like, who's the arbiter of this? That's kind of the thing.
It's everybody. It's everybody. There has to be a general majority agreement that he's okay to come back. But he'll never be accepted.
But someone like Hannah Gadsby is never going to ever want him back, and I prefer to have his voice than hers. So, I think what the big bummer about this is going to turn into a men versus women thing.
You think so?
Yeah, because I don't really like. It was weird to hear Christina on Your Mom's House.
I valued her opinion quite a bit.
And I think she totally missed the mark on this one.
I don't think so.
But it seemed to unravel after a while, because then Tom was sort of trying to say, what is who's deciding what the time frame is?
Well, yeah, it's not a law. Tom was saying it's not within the legal process that he can redeem himself. It's in a social process that he has to redeem himself.
Right.
And that's going to be up to the majority of people.
Right.
You can't. There's people like you and I who think he is capable of redemption, whether that's now or in the future, but that timeline depends on what the general public thinks. We might be earlier on in the timeline, but the majority of people might not want him to come back for another 2-3 years subconsciously, but if that's the case, he shouldn't come back until then.
But then who I think the only thing that would decide this is that if he released something and then a shitload of people watched it, then that's confirmation that we want him back.
Of course, yeah, but that's exactly. So that's only if he does release something. So him doing this surprise show is him basically releasing something, putting his foot in the water and seeing the temperature, and I don't think it was very good.
Well, I mean, I think the problem is it depends on what you're looking at. Like, again, like every think piece, of course, this is problematic. But in terms of Reddit, which is pretty down the middle in terms of ideology, was all for it. And so I think the general populace is for it. It's just that it's so toxic to say that you like him still.
Well, then that's going to be a factor in when he can come back.
It's just that it's that thing. It's like, again, it's like even with this Ozzy Argento thing coming out too. We all in this moment love to pretend that we've not done something that would, if we had intense scrutiny on us, that it wouldn't be found out. It's so hilarious to me. It's just that, and to me, it's what I find so peculiar about somebody like her is it's the gay minister who talks a bunch of anti-gay stuff and then gets caught, tapping his toe in a bathroom stall to get sucked off. It's like Ozzy Argento and Rose McGowan are this. It's like they probably both did some evil shit,
of course.
And it's like we all have that baggage to some degree, but I think this one's tricky because you're dealing on somebody else's perception of what happened, right? But I don't know. I just don't. I don't. Yeah, I don't really know. I think that. Again, but here's the problem. So who decides this? Like, who decides this time frame?
Well, it's the culture. I mean, I don't think our culture is in a place right now where if he releases a special, if he does another surprise show, that he's going to be accepted by the majority of people. No,
but I think that he would be by the majority of people. I think
really
that
think so?
The 30% in this country that's like kind of neo-left or super feminist.
That's 30%
or more, sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
But they hated him before this. Like, he was always a problem to them. I think that they kind of got fooled by him being like an auteur kind of in this kind of camera. He made like Louis, which is a very beautiful show and was well written, and I think that. But at the end of the day, you listen to him on Opie and Anthony on those long form things that I was telling you about, and it's fucking filthy, and it's baby fucking jokes, and it's rape joke. It's like he is a dirty comedian, and it's all that stuff can be funny if it's done right, and he's done it in a way that's funny. But I just don't. I think the ones that are still are outraged that he did this are the ones that would be outraged in 10 years. They're never going to change. Like, if he came back, would it really bother you?
I don't think so. I think it depends on the context. I think him doing this surprise show wasn't a great idea.
Why?
Because it was a surprise. He should have let people know that he was doing this.
But this is the thing. So I was thinking about it when they were saying that too, and I'm like, if he would have told them to announce it, the press would have been fucking everywhere.
Well, I think there's a good way to do it and a bad way to do it.
It would have been impossible.
If he announced it a month before, bad. If he announced it a day before,
dude,
better.
TMZ is at the air. Like, it's like they're clairvoyant. They know when and someone would have filmed the set. Like, it would have been bad. There's no the surprise thing. I think was just to avoid media attention being there while he was doing it.
It's tough because we don't know if that was his intention. We don't know if he was.
But there's no way that would not have happened. So I think it's a safe assumption.
Right.
Even if he had announced it 30 minutes before, TMZ would have been there for sure.
I don't know. I think it's interesting because there's no guarantee of what he was thinking there. It's if he did or didn't announce it, it doesn't matter because his intention was unknown. We don't know what his real intention was. If he wanted to make it a surprise because he thought people would love him again, that's fucked up.
Let's be real. Let's be real though. So let's say that you and I were sitting in a comedy club, right?
Yeah.
And we were gonna see, I don't know, whoever, somebody we love, Tom Segura, and then it's a small club, and then they say, next up, a surprise appearance from Bill Cosby. What would you think?
Jesus, I wouldn't want to see him.
I would.
Well, you're not everybody, Jordan.
But wouldn't it just be weird? Like, it would be like such a weird experience.
It would be, of course. I don't think it would have been pleasant. And I want to go there to laugh. I don't think I would laugh if Bill Cosby did a surprise set before one of my favorite artists. I'd be upset.
To me, it would be like, here you get to laugh and see something totally fucking grotesque. Yeah. And it's like this idea that but it's just this pearl clutching culture. Like, oh, what about the women in the audience? It's just like, give me a break. Like, come on. I just don't. I don't know. Like, and apparently he got a standing ovation when he walked out, and when he left as well. So clearly the audience.
I didn't
was
know
into
that.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
that's interesting.
And so everything up until all the think pieces came out was pretty positive.
Then it was
about
positive.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So then we're not getting like the truth of what happened.
There was one
from
complaint from the audience.
One complaint. That's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So then the audience was okay with seeing him.
Yes.
So these think pieces don't seem to be the majority of people.
But are you surprised?
No, not at all.
Yeah, me either.
The thing is, that's what dominates this think piece media.
That's what I think sucks. I think that's the stuff that Christina was reading.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I didn't know that. I didn't know. Well, where did you read that there was a standing ovation?
There was an article on Reddit like the day after it happened, talking about it, and it interviewed people who were in the audience.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not surprising that we would see incredibly negative things just 9 months after this story of Louis C.K. was released.
But I think if it were 3 years, it would have been the same reaction.
You really think so?
Oh yeah.
You think our culture is going to be the same in 3 years?
I think that this is all going to. I think what's going to happen, and I think the Asia Argento thing or Asia people had for Asia and Asia. Who
I
cares?
don't fucking know.
This is she broke it. She broke the movement. So now we're kind of in this thing of like, okay, so like the narrative they were using of believe all women, well now we know we can't because half of we're all liars, right? So
yeah,
no matter
you can't
what
really
gender
believe anybody.
No, and so which I know is really cynical, but what can we do? I think that what's going to happen in the future is it's going to either go one of two ways. Number one is we're all going to, this is ideal, which is why I think it's not going to happen, is we're all going to agree that there is nuance to sex and relationships that is going to be uncomfortable. If someone breaks the law by behaving a certain way sexually, that should be what it is. Nuances during sex that make you uncomfortable that you don't vocalize, that's on you now. So it's like if someone does something that you don't like when you're having sex or it's like unwanted advances or something, and you vocalize that and they stop, then it's a non-issue and it shouldn't have ever been brought up again. It's interesting because when I was thinking about Louis C.K., did I talk to you about Pee Wee Herman at all?
A little bit.
So
we've talked about it.
In the 90s, he got arrested for jerking off in a porn theater.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know that.
It was salacious because he was a child's star, right?
Yeah.
But the public loved him and was like, just let him go and let him be. If this had happened now, he would have been over.
He'd be socially dead.
Yeah, and so it's interesting to me. I think that the reaction we had then was kind of more healthy to it. I'm not comparing what Louis C.K. did to that. I mean, there was victims in his case, but at the same time, it's like, well, how damaged were all three of you by this? Like, I mean, again, it's like I understand the perspective of a woman in the sense of you're small. He's a big fat dude, and so I mean, if he wanted to physically harm you, he could. So for him to do something like that irrational in front of you, logic would dictate that he could theoretically do something dangerous.
Yeah, that's a really great point.
So I totally understand that side of it, but at the same time, it's like, well, he didn't, right? So he did something gross, and then to me personally, and I've had things like that done to me over the years, like in LA with powerful gay people who just think they can take liberties that they don't have, but none of it really, to me, it's more just sort of an interesting weird story that happened. None of it really affected my psyche to any degree. And I think that that's kind of an interesting part of this is like, so the amount of weight that we put on sex and sex acts is so far beyond really anything else that we have as humans. Like we even put violence sort of behind it in a weird way in terms of damaging your psyche and your whole being, and this is obviously excludes stuff that happens to you if you're a child or rape. I mean, because those are both violence, situations. But in terms of like someone groping you or being inappropriate, that isn't really violence. It's just somebody who knows no boundaries, and I don't know, should they be made a pariah? I don't really know, but I don't really think so personally. So I'm wondering. So I got on a tangent, but I think. Ideally, we just come to figure out that we are both different as genders. As Hannah Gadsby correctly said, we are more alike than we are different, but in the ways that we are different is sex, right? And for her to deny that, or anybody else to deny that, is...
I love that you just quoted Hannah Gadsby.
Right.
It really shows your admiration for her.
Oh, yeah, big time. If you deny that, you're pissing into the wind, right? So
Exactly.
it just makes no sense. The alternative, the second option, which is this kind of dystopian nightmare I think we're heading towards, is that...
Abolish sex. Nobody can bone.
Just a mound.
You shave it off.
You just shave it off.
We're all Ken dolls and Barbie dolls. That'd be kind of hot. I'd have a perfect sculpted plastic body. That's kind of the goal, actually. I'd love to get
walk around West
surgery
Hollywood.
to-
You see a lot of sculpted plastic bodies.
I met the man who has the most plastics, like cosmetic surgeries. Do you know that guy? Who's got like the face and the pecs and the calves?
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. I met him and he I don't know, maybe he was just being friendly or like he does this to everybody, but I feel like he was flirting with me.
He probably was.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
He's powerful. He was at a gay fundraising event. So
what a good.
But of course, so was I.
What a
I'm
good
not very
representative
powerful.
to have at the.
But anyways, you were saying what we were moving towards.
Yeah, just a dystopian nightmare in the sense of, all of your data and your phone and your there's
nothing's safe.
Nothing's going to be safe, and I think that's where we're going next.
Everything will be exposed, and we have to decide what is valuable and what's not, what's redeemable and what's not. I don't know. Like when I was like, I don't even think I used to like Snapchat my nudes to people at like 17 years old. That's child pornography.
Yeah,
it's illegal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe somebody has a photo of me from when I was 17 and they are in possession of my child pornography.
Yeah.
That might get exposed in like 10 years. Like, and they'll get arrested because I sent it to them. It's,
That's a kind of weird thing of like,
which I'm sorry if any of like my family members are listening to this. I was nude at 17 and sexual.
Yeah, well, I think that's the reality they all know, but they just don't talk about.
Yeah.
But it's a kind of weird thing too. I've often thought about this. Like, have you ever been on a like, I don't know, like one of the porn tube sites?
Yes.
And then you stumble across a video and you're like, that kid doesn't look 18.
Oh yeah.
And then you're like, am I in trouble for having even seen this for a second?
Yeah.
Or I don't know. That's like a weird kind of thing too.
And does somebody know that I saw this for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've often wondered that because there's probably in the last year I've probably seen or come across 7 things where I'm like that. Like you flag it and report it, but it's at the same time you're like this. I mean, the fact that I've even visited this page is
that incriminating?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I guess not, because the implicit agreement is that if you're using the site, that everything on there should be curated that it's 18.
Yeah.
But I mean, even I often wondered that like on Grindr too. Like if someone hits you up on there and they're not 18,
you expect them to be at least
right,
18. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So I don't really know where the future's heading with this. I hope he comes back. I mean, it's a voice I miss. The world is just less funny lately, and so I think I think the one thing that Tom and Christina had right was that he needs to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely, he needs to address it.
Yeah, and I think that if he did it in like a tactful way, it would absolve him of all this.
Tactful and funny. Just I don't know. I think we're dying for him to address it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and he did, but I think that like address it in his voice, like clearly the thing he wrote it obviously, but it was one of those things where it was not his comedic voice, which.
It's an apology tour, not, I mean, he was doing an apology tour,
right? Not
a comedy tour.
And that's the kind of thing too. Is it's like, do we want these people to grovel? And I really don't. I think that.
Man, yeah.
I think there's a difference between owning your mistakes and being a man or groveling, and I think that most people just grovel.
Yeah. And
it's not a good look, and it doesn't seem very sincere.
I saw this video. I don't know if you're aware of who Jenna Marbles is.
Yeah, I know she is. Yeah.
There's another influencer named Laura Lee who got in trouble for something.
Yeah, I know about this. The Jeffree Star thing.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck she did or what she said, but somebody was comparing their two apologies because Jenna Marbles made a video about doing something unethical with her fish tank, and she didn't realize she was doing it. So the next day she posted a video, an apology video, I guess, saying why she took the video down, owning up to her mistakes, and saying, we're going to make mistakes. We are people, but you have to understand that it's okay to try and correct your mistakes, no matter how big they are.
Right.
And Jenna Marbles handled it so maturely, and then I saw a side-by-side of Laura Lee's apology video where she's like this 20-year-old, well, maybe she's not 20, but she's like in her 20s, and she's like wiping fake tears from her face, and she's crying. She's like, I'm so sorry, I disappointed you. It's like, no, just own up to what you did, apologize, say you were different, and that you worked on yourself since then, and you wouldn't do it again.
Right.
It's embarrassing to grovel. I think you should own up to your mistakes, but be an adult about it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things too. Like, if you've not broken the law, I think you really should just own the things that you've done, and I think it's endearing. You know, if you get, and it could be a really interesting part of your story as well. But you have to own it. I don't think really anybody owes. Like, I think the only people that are owed an apology from Louis is the women that he did it to. The fucking public doesn't need an apology from him. Fuck them. And so that's kind of the thing of like, if he can address how, mostly if he were to address it in a joke, it would just be to break how awkward this all is.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind. I just had this thought now of like, how amazing would it be that kind of the bow or the cherry on top of this whole thing, after Ozzy Argento ruined it, is him kind of making it funny in a tasteful way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we'll see what he does. I think he's smart enough to do something like that. Him testing the water was a smart move, but I don't know. This general media backlash, this like lie, and it's all very bizarre, and I don't know if the media will give up for a while. I don't know if they'll let him do his thing.
Yeah, it
if
was
not for another couple years.
It was interesting when Christina was talking about it on the podcast and saying that I think it was something about his ego being so big or something.
That he was arrogant and thinking he could come back without repercussions.
I don't think so. I think he
You
knew.
don't think that was his intention?
I think he knew exactly what was going to happen.
Really?
I think he knew it would be like negative and positive. I think he knew both was going to happen.
That's
I think he just wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, like what? That's kind of the shitty part. Is it's like, so, he didn't do anything illegal. Just really distasteful and gross. So now he can't. He has children. Right, so he can't work anymore, that's kind of the thing, and so
he has to be a barista now. He's got to work at Starbucks.
Yeah, well, maybe that would be penance. You have to work at Starbucks for a year.
Oh my God! Imagine.
Yeah.
You break any sort of social law, and you have to work at Starbucks. If you're mean to a waiter, oh my God!
I actually love this.
Yeah.
You have to work a customer service job
in
for
our
a year.
Dystopian. I don't know. We're two. Rulers. What would that be? An oligarchy or a dual monarchy?
Yeah, well, I guess we'd be an oligarchy if there's two of us. Dual monarchy. We would just be a monarchy because we'd be king and queen.
King and king. Queen? Are you the queen?
Of
Are
course
you going
I
to wear
am.
a giant gown
I would.
all the time?
And I would
designed by me.
You know what I would dress like? I would dress just like Queen Elizabeth, but all the clothes would be the same size as hers. So it would just be really ill-fitting, and I would be in these like pantsuits,
Oh my God.
and I'll also always have the different hats like she has.
Yes, exactly matching your outfit.
Yeah. So I think that
love
would be
that.
our kingdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, that's all I kind of wanted to talk about.
Yeah, let's build our fucking empire.
All right.
Let's finish this show. Let's blow this popsicle stand.
Well, thank you for listening. This is Fruit Basket number 9.
Number 9.
Love you all, Bones. I love you,
Oh,
Bones.
I love you, Bones.
And Shunk My Corn.